Speaker Sprowls, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Jackie. It's great to be with you.
We spoke at the beginning of this legislative session, and it's hard to believe 60 days have passed and you have crossed the finish line. The governor congratulated you and said he was proud of the work the legislature had accomplished. There were many bills approved, including some controversial bills. What is your big takeaway from session as Speaker?
Well, I think this was the year of the Florida parent, the Florida child, the Florida family. Whether it's, helping to raise your kids or getting a job or making sure that, you know what they're learning in K-12 education and you're empowered to be part of their life. This was a session dedicated to Florida families and Florida parents to make sure that they're thriving, whether it's getting a job or going to school or whether it's leaving and getting into the workforce. So we're excited about the job that was done for Florida families.
That leads me to one of the more controversial bills that has been criticized, the Parental Rights and Education Bill. Why was it important for you to pass what critics are calling the Don't Say Gay bill?
Yeah, and as you know, that name is just totally untrue. I mean, all that bill says is that, parents have a right to know what's going on in their child's education. It says in K through third grade, and we're talking about 5 and 6 year olds. There shouldn't be classroom-led instruction about things like gender identity because it's not appropriate for 5 and 6 year olds to have classroom-led instruction on that. It also says that if there's stuff going on with your kid at school, that, you have the right to know about it and be an active part of your child's life. I don't think that's controversial, Jackie. I don't think that parents think it's controversial, to have an active role in their life. And it's not the only thing that we did this session to make sure they did. Whether it's the curriculum transparency to make sure that parents know what they're learning. I think one of the things that's come out of COVID is, our kids were home. I was kind of running a daddy preschool for several weeks there during COVID. And a lot of parents had the experience where they're finding out what their kids are learning at school. In some cases, they're disappointed or alarmed. In a lot of cases, they're happy. But the reality is what we are left with is parents who are now hyper engaged with their child's education. They want to know what they're learning, what's happening at school, and what role they can play as a parent to make sure that they're helping their child be successful. And I think that's a great thing.
So what would you say are some of the misconceptions about it?
Well, look at just the name. I mean, just that it's just not true. I mean, this bill is 4 pages long. It is double spaced. The changes to law are underlined, and yet a lot of the media reporting totally mischaracterized it. It says, "Oh, this is anti-gay, this is anti-people." It's not. I mean, the reality is all it's saying is there's appropriate times and places for education. And, we do that all the time. As parents, we curate what movies our kids watch. I have a 5 and 6 year old at home. There are movies that I think are awesome that they're really going to enjoy watching, but they might be too young to watch it right now. So that's my job as a parent to make sure I'm sort of curating that content at the appropriate time. And also when we get into complicated topics, it's the parent's job to be able to, frame that topic for their child in the way that they deem the most appropriate. And I don't think there's anything radical about that. I think we do that 1,000 times a day as parents, and we should have the same expectation that when we drop our children off for school, that we haven't ceded all of our parental authority to the school district.
And was that the same thinking when eliminating critical race theory from the classroom?
That's another one. The individual freedoms bill. I mean, if you look at that bill, what does it say? The actual words on the page say everybody deserves to be treated equally, regardless of their race, their gender. You shouldn't treat people differently. You shouldn't blame people because of the color of their skin or their gender for the sins of the past from somebody else who happened to have the same color skin or the same gender as them. I don't think there's anybody, if we put them off the street and said, do you think people should be treated differently based on their race or gender? I think they would say no. I think they'd say that's inherently un-American. And that's what that bill was all about, was making sure that people aren't doing that to our kids, aren't doing that in school or in the workplace because it's wrong.
The abortion bill, or the 15-week abortion ban, which passed by mostly party lines, do you believe the protections are warranted?
Absolutely, I do. We're talking about 3 months. A child's life deserves to be protected. Babies have the right to be born healthy. We selected the 15 weeks because of the Dobbs case out of Mississippi, which is currently in front of the United States Supreme Court. And it was the legislature in Florida's best opportunity to protect life. I'm proud of the job that was done. Representative Aaron Grawl, who carried that bill in the Florida House, along with Representative Persons Maleka, did an eloquent job standing up for life and the unborn child on the House floor. And we were proud to pass it, and even more proud to have the opportunity to get it to Governor DeSantis' desk.
President Biden president commented on it, claiming it would restrict women's access to reproductive health care and cause the erosion of women's constitutional rights. How would you respond to that?
I'd say it's similar to other things we hear out of the White House, which is just totally ridiculous. It's designed for clickbait that might be appropriate for Twitter, but isn't appropriate for public discourse. The reality is this protects babies at 15 weeks. Unfortunately, Jackie, we're living in a time and place where there are members of the President Biden's political party, even members of his cabinet who have advocated for abortions, almost up to the moment of birth. And what I have said time and time again, and members of the Florida House have said, is it is okay. In fact, it's right and just for us to want to protect babies' lives. This bill allowed us to do that at the 15-week mark. I think that it is totally justified, and we were proud to pass it.
I want to talk about the budget. You passed a record $112 billion budget, which you extended session for. Included in it, one of the most robust tax packages in the history of Florida. Tell us about it.
I tell you that I'm really excited about it. I mean, here is a tax package designed for middle-class families. Everything from, your typical things you'd expect, your back-to-school sales tax holiday, your hurricane preparedness. We added pet supplies, but a lot of new things. The first time last year we debuted Freedom Week, which allows people to, get things and get sales tax off of outdoor activities and all kinds of fun things. But then there's really, really new things designed for middle-class families. Diapers is a huge one. Every parent who's had small children knows how expensive diapers are, how many you go through. There's a 1-year sales tax holiday on diapers. So the entire year, parents who are buying diapers are not going to pay taxes. If they go out and they have to get their appliances fixed, we know how devastating it can be financially for families who have to replace, high ticket items like refrigerators. So in our bill, energy efficient appliances have a 1-year sales tax holiday. As homeowners, you always often need tools to fix things around your house. There's a tool time sales tax holiday for people to go and buy tools. So throughout the course of the tax package, you're going to find opportunities for families, including people who are taking their kids to school over the summer. When our kids need to be reading to stay on grade level, there is a sales tax. Free sales tax on books so that parents can make sure that their kids are continuing to read, baby clothes. So I think not only is this the most robust tax package in the history of Florida, but it's the one that's most centered around Florida families.
You mentioned kids in school. The governor signed the FSA bill into law this week. You're happy about that?
I am. I was with him today in Pinellas County when he signed the bill, making sure we eliminated the FSA and go to progress monitoring. And I think a lot of people are reacting positively to that because there's a lot of negative connotation of the FSA and high stakes testing. But I think the real key takeaway for me as a parent and for a lot of families is this is going to give parents, immediate feedback on how their child is doing. That's what we all want as parents. We want the ability to help our kids. And the sooner that we know that they're struggling in a particular area and we can react to help them, we're going to do that. The other thing I would say is you can't look at this just in isolation. It's not just about getting rid of the test, making it easier, making parents more aware. We've also built things now into our education policy last year and this year to make it easier for parents to react, whether that's a new reading scholarship to help a child who's struggling readers, allowing teachers to tutor them while they're at school. So the education innovation in the state of Florida continues to run on hyperdrive.
I also want to talk about what's happening in Ukraine because there are 42,000 Ukrainian Americans living in Florida right now. And the House also approved a resolution condemning the Russia invasion of Ukraine. What does that entail?
Look, we put out a resolution because we wanted the world to know that we hold Russia completely responsible for eliminating and violating the sovereignty of Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. We wanted to let them know that the state of Florida acts in solidarity with the people of Ukraine. We had a family that was living in Tallahassee that we honored that day, in addition to putting out the resolution. But we've also done other things on a policy front, Jackie, both last year and this year. And that is we put in place several policies as it relates to countries of concern. I know you and I have talked about that in the past. Those countries include China, Cuba, Venezuela, and Russia. And, what we've done is basically say, if you're part of these countries of concern or you have a company that is owned in part or in whole by these countries of concern, you might not be able to do business with the state. We're making sure that there's massive disclosure requirements on higher ed institutions and the like to make sure that these types of countries of concern aren't doing a business and infiltrating our state unfettered.
And finally, this will be your last session as Speaker. What are your future plans?
We'll see. Coming out of session, I'm just happy to be home and be able to spend time with my two boys. Luckily, they got to join me a great deal in Tallahassee, my wife and my boys. So excited to be home, and we'll see soon what's next.
Speaker Sprowls, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for always taking time to speak with us.
Thanks, Jackie. Great to see you again.